Hello, everyone. We have another episode of the Des Moines Metro Market Update from Team IRG here for essentially just talking January numbers here in February of 2026. And my name is Junior Ibarra, and alongside me, I have my partners here. And up next is
My name's Ryan Coy. I'm Director of Operations for Team IRG, and also we have.
I'm Anthony Simon. I am one of the real estate agents with Team IRG. So we're just going to jump right into this. So like Junior said, we are looking in February, looking at numbers for January of this year. So the start of this year. And what we're kind of looking at is the metro core. So it's a 10.5 mile radius, kind of around the geographic center of the metro, looking at residential, single family, resale, and new construction. Median sale price. So January has been a bit slower than normal, a little bit slow this year, and we're seeing prices tend to come down a little bit. They were kind of coming down at the end of last year into December, the bright blue at the top, and then that green on the far left side there. We were sitting about 315 for median sale price in January this year.
Wow, so this is like the first year it's been below the year prior
So far.
so far.
So like last year we had a couple of months that dipped below 2024, but
Yeah, that's true.
um, we'll see. I mean, I think we had a very slow kind of December, January, and it's starting to reflect that in what we're going to see for sales numbers for maybe the next month or two.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how it moves. I mean, we felt it in December. Like I feel like winter kind of started earlier, like where we got just a little bit of an influx of snow that obviously affects things, and then the holidays, and then yet now it's been the inverse of that. Like going into the new year, absolutely no snow. Shoot, we have 60-degree weather in February. What is that? So we've seen a huge uptick here recently within the last handful of weeks of like listings that were sitting there for a little while that have gone pending. So I'd be interested to see how this changes in the months to come as we're feeling it feels like spring market is here and we're in the dead of February, right? Yet it does the weather reflects that too. So anyhow, it'll be interesting. Yet it is surprising to see that below the last year's number. And so that could be a good thing for some buyers out there that capitalized on some of that, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, 60 degrees in February in Iowa is pretty atypical. Uh,
Hmm.
and everybody's getting outside. Everybody's got that spring energy. I mean, we felt it in our office too. Like everybody's been excited and just doing stuff, and that it happens in real estate. It's the same thing. That's why real estate in Des Moines tends to be seasonal. We get the most activity when the weather's nice, and we get the least activity when the weather's not.
yep, exactly.
All right, days on market. So again, looking at that bright blue line coming in from last year, it was ticking up. We saw a decent bit of like a little surge kind of in November, and then just that slow down December into January and a little bit of February. So we're halfway through February right now. Days on the market still are maybe not kind of catching up to what the short term activity we've seen, but we're getting close to 2 months on market as a median for resale. This is not looking at new construction because new construction days on market can be real goofy, but resale houses, yeah, we're over 30 days, which we haven't seen in a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, although we do see the typical trend like up, right, usually from January to February, and then it starts coming back down, going into March and kind of like peak season, right? And so I suspect we'll see a similar trend, especially with what's been going on recently. Yet I guess we'll see what the actual numbers say here shortly. So, but yeah, 46 days, like just to give everyone an idea, like 0 to 3 months is still typically a seller's market, right? 4 to 6 is yeah, a balanced market, and then 7 plus is a buyer's market, right? And so we're still under those 0 to 3 months for days on market.
Yeah. And here's kind of a little bit more of a breakdown of just kind of how that days on market plays per price point per $50,000 increment. Unsurprisingly, for the most part, the more expensive the house, the longer it sits. This trend doesn't always hold true. There's sometimes a little bit of a blip, just at different prices, but In general, we tend to see the most of our market is right around that $300,000 mark. Um, and right now, that 250 to 300 is the least days on market, excluding the under 100,000, which again is at this point anymore is just kind of an outlier on just we don't see a ton of those anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, when you hit that 2 to 300 range, they tend to move quick when priced right and just well taken care of homes, and then still even 3 to 350. Obviously, that you see the curve there, what happens in all those price points, and that's just pretty normal for all those price points in those segments.
All right, number of houses sold. So disregard the actual line on this because obviously taking 2 weeks of data versus 4.5. But for January, 303, a bit lower than we've seen lately. A bit lower than we'd like to see, but that's what it is, and we felt it. It was a very slow January
Yep.
here in Des Moines.
Which matches all the other information that we just saw. So again, we'll see what it's trending now, just because we've seen a lot more activity as of recently, and so it'll be interesting to see how this, if we stay under these curves or if we end up, catching up and surpassing them. Especially now, rates have come down. It's actually the lowest rates we've seen in almost 3 years. So we're even seeing some refis happening for those that did purchase homes in the last couple of years when rates were above 7. Now we're seeing rates anywhere from under 6 to right above 6, depending on what programs you choose. So for those of you that did buy within the last couple of years, you might be able to save some money there and look at some options for refis. And if we can be of assistance in any way, let us know. And or now we're starting to see more of that trickle in of uh, the gap between what some of the consumers, some of our client base, and just people reaching out that maybe still had a 3% rate. The gap now isn't as far fetched, and there's a lot of equity where people are starting not to delay the move as they were in the past, right? So they're whether they need to upgrade or to a bigger house or downgrade, or not downgrade, but go to a smaller house or move based on locations or school or whatnot. We're starting to see more of that because now the jump isn't so big, and then the equity that people have in their homes can kind of help you from a cash flow position, whether using that equity to put down towards the next home or using that equity sometimes to even pay down certain, say, a car loan or a credit card that gives you some cash flow positive positioning as well, instead of putting it all towards the next house. So a lot of different scenarios that we're starting to see now sitting at the kitchen tables, which is kind of cool to explain all the options, because that's all we're supposed to do, right? Is just empower people with information, so that they can make informative decisions. So it's super cool to see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, again, incidentally, I just had a buyer, first time buyer. She was just quoted a 5.8% rate with no like buying without any points, so not buying that down at all. Like that was just her rate from the lender, which is awesome. We'd love to see it. So kind of looking again at kind of that breakdown of how that 300 is kind of broken out. This usually is a pretty decent bell curve, kind of right around that 300, $300,000 to $400,000 range. We still kind of got that there, but again, with less houses, data kind of gets a little bit goofier, and it was a bit more flat. You know, the majority of everything was still under that 450 price range. Um, I think it was 76% was 450 and under. So it's still right around that 75-80% mark. And yeah, that's again that continues to be the sweet spot for Des Moines.
Yeah. So yeah, nothing too crazy out of the ordinary here. So it tends to just follow track for the Des Moines Metro.
New listings, again, unsurprisingly, less than last year, less than previous years even. 561 is what we kind of saw hit the market in January. Not a ton less than like if we look at the yellow line 2024 or 2023, but still less. The least listings we've seen in January in the last, I think I have data further back. I think it was 8 years. It was less than the last 8 years. Um, Yeah, and that's just again slower month. Mm. Which kind of brings us into current active listings. So that's 1707 in January. Again, less stuff hitting the market, just less stuff moving. Inventory is going to kind of just sit at a little bit less. Currently in February, and this is maybe a decent statistic because this should be just current actives, 1606. So we are seeing a little bit of that surge here with the weather being awesome, which is not going to be reflected in closed units, but is also not going to be active listings. So we're kind of seeing that number drop off here in February because so far because there has been kind of an uptick in buyer activity that at least that we've seen and that we've been experiencing just around Des Moines.
Yeah. Yeah, I suspect we'll see that as climb up as usual. But yeah, like you said, less listings when active. Some buyers activated after the new year, and not only just because of rates, but obviously new year, new opportunities, new goals, and alongside that, new interest rates, right? And so some of that inventory got purchased by some of these buyers. At least I can speak to the stories of some of the listings that we had that were kind of a little stagnant in December, and then all of a sudden in the new year, especially as of recently, have gone pending, right? And so that ate up some of that inventory, and then active listings going live. We're starting to see more of it as of recently, especially with the rates and that gap getting a little smaller below 6% is definitely a lot of sellers are now. At least I sat in two of them last week where the sellers are like, all right, it's time. We need a bigger house. One of them was a bigger house and one of them was a smaller. They wanted to downsize because kids have left the household too. So a lot of
Yep.
opportunities to have discussions and just talk about all the different scenarios that are out there.
Yeah, I've got a client we've been talking for years about maybe moving, maybe moving. They've had two new kids since we talked about maybe moving, and now they're like, okay, now for real, it's time, and we're out there looking and getting their house ready to get listed.
Love it. Love it.
All right, that's all we have for you looking at January. So kind of a slow start to this year, but things are already picking up with the amazing weather we've been having, and it looks like it's going to be another fun spring market as things keep going.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially if it's 60 degrees for the next couple days, right?
We got to manifest it. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's keep spring where it's but well, it's tempting, right? Well, I'm not going to say it, but like
Yeah.
it's like we still have February and March yet. I pray that we keep these high temps around. So we shall see. Anyhow, with that being said, thank you, Anthony, for always sharing the information, and thank you to those that watch and just share this information with others that they know and the community as a whole. We're here, like I said, to empower you with information to make informative decisions. There's our number if we can be of assistance in any way, and we'll catch you on the next one. We'll see it.